When you hear the words Navy and F-16 in the same sentence, you might think those two things don't fit together. The F-16, often associated with the Air Force, is renowned for its speed, agility, and cutting-edge technology. Conversely, the Navy is typically linked with carrier-based aircraft and maritime operations. However, back in the late 1980s, an unexpected union took place when Top Gun instructors and fleet adversary pilots found themselves in the cockpit of a brand new Navy jet that was never meant to see the deck of an aircraft carrier. This unique aircraft was the F-16N, an exotic variant of the Fighting Falcon specifically designed to challenge the skills of Navy and Marine Corps fighter aircrews. It was an adversary fighter crafted to push the limits of naval aviation training, simulating enemy tactics and capabilities with unparalleled precision. Despite being in service for less than a decade, the F-16N left a lasting legacy that continues to influence naval aviation today. Join us as we delve into the fascinating story of the F-16N and explore how this remarkable jet reshaped the landscape of military training. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we are delving into the intriguing history of the F-16N, a jet that brought together the Navy and the F-16 in a way that few expected. This unique aircraft was designed specifically to challenge the skills of Navy and Marine Corps fighter aircrews. Though only 26 were ever built, the F-16N left a lasting impact on naval aviation training that is still felt today. Let's explore the origins, design, and enduring legacy of this exceptional aircraft. The F-16N was conceived as an adversary fighter, meant to emulate enemy aircraft in training scenarios. By the early 1980s, adversarial air forces were fielding increasingly capable jets like the Su-27 Flanker and MiG-29 Fulcrum. The Navy's existing adversary aircraft, the F-5 Tiger II and A-4 Skyhawk, were no longer sufficient to simulate these new threats. To provide realistic training, the Navy needed a highly capable, dissimilar fighter. Initially, two options were considered: Northrop's F-20 Tiger Shark and General Dynamics' F-1679. The F-1679, an early block F-16 with a less powerful engine, was ultimately replaced by the high-performance F-16N. Despite the F-20's maneuverability and cost-effectiveness, a fatal crash and strong lobbying for the F-16 led the Navy to choose the F-16N. The decision was based on the need for a fighter that could realistically emulate the latest enemy capabilities. The F-16N, stripped of unnecessary weight and equipped with advanced systems, was perfect for this role. The goal was to create a training environment that closely mirrored real combat scenarios, providing Navy and Marine Corps pilots with the skills needed to succeed in actual engagements. The F-16N was built on the F-16C Block 30 airframe, powered by a General Electric F1 110 GE100 engine, producing 25,795 pounds of thrust in full afterburner. With a weight under 25,000 pounds fully fueled, the F-16N boasted an impressive thrust-to-weight ratio of over 1:1, enhancing its performance as fuel burned off during missions. The jet featured several advanced systems from the standard F-16, including HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick, multifunction displays, and a bubble canopy for exceptional visibility. However, it lacked actual weaponry, reducing weight and enhancing maneuverability. Instead, it carried training rounds and instrumentation pods to simulate combat scenarios. The F-16N also included a sophisticated radar warning receiver, chaff and flare dispensers, and video recording systems to maximize training effectiveness. These features, combined with its stripped-down configuration, made the F-16N a formidable adversary in training exercises. Designed to be a high-performance training platform, the F-16N retained many of the features that made the F-16 a dogfighting master. The bowless bubble canopy provided unrivaled visibility, while the 30-degree reclined ejection seat increased pilot G tolerance. These elements, combined with the aircraft's advanced avionics and flight systems, created a highly effective training tool. The aircraft's design also included fortified lower wing attachments made of titanium. This was a necessary modification, given the intense maneuvering and high G-forces the F-16N would experience during training flights. Despite these enhancements, the jet's lightweight design allowed it to maintain impressive agility and speed, crucial for simulating modern enemy fighters. On June 17, 1987, the first two F-16Ns arrived at Naval Air Station Miramar, home of the famed Top Gun school. The introduction of the F-16N marked a significant upgrade over previous adversary aircraft. These jets were assigned to various squadrons, including VF-126, VF-43, VF-45, and Top Gun. Despite their extensive experience, pilots needed intensive training to master the F-16N. The aircraft's radar system and advanced avionics required special attention, particularly for pilots transitioning from different aircraft. Once trained, these pilots could fully exploit the F-16N's capabilities, providing a realistic and challenging training environment for Navy and Marine Corps aircrews. The F-16N's performance allowed it to emulate both older and newer generation enemy fighters, providing a comprehensive threat spectrum for trainees. This included simulating beyond visual range engagements and head-on fights, critical skills for modern aerial combat. The F-16N's ability to replicate the capabilities of contemporary adversaries such as the MiG-29 and Su-27 was a game-changer for naval aviation training. The F-16N was able to match all of these aircraft, which could include flying slower or turning wider and putting acceleration and angle of attack limitations in place to replicate older generation fighters. On the other hand, it could fly to its fullest potential to mimic the threat profiles of flankers and fulcrum with skilled Soviet pilots at their controls. For the first time in years, Top Gun and select adversary squadron pilots were able to put students through the full threat spectrum with a truly dissimilar asset, and, in doing so, teach high-fidelity lessons that were previously unable to be taught. Specific to this was the front quarter fight, where fighters fire at each other from the head-on aspect before merging and entering into a tight-turning dogfight. This includes beyond visual range engagements, using longer-range air-to-air missiles. These have been challenging to validate with older adversary aircraft, despite this portion of a fight becoming the most common and potentially decisive portions of modern air-to-air combat. The F-16N's radar and radar warning receiver made it a beyond visual range threat to be reckoned with. The output from its onboard recorders could result in better validation of each kill, along with the data from its wingtip-mounted air combat maneuvering instrumentation pod, although it would only work when the jets were operating over instrumented ranges. Typically, students undergoing the Top Gun course would work their way up to fighting the F-16N at full capacity in a building block fashion. Easier adversary profiles that simulated older generation threats would be presented in the beginning of the syllabus, and newer, later generation threats and more complex scenarios would be featured towards the end. Top Gun F-16Ns would typically operate in a section of two aircraft, either standalone or with an additional section of A4s, to increase the scale and complexity of the training sortie. This was specifically due to the fact that any peer threat with fourth-generation fighters were likely to work in pairs in a minimum. Fleet pilots flying F-14s and F-18s quickly realized that their best bet of defeating the adversary F-16Ns was in the forward quarter and beyond visual range battle. The F-14, for example, given its two-man crew, powerful AUG-9 radar AIM-54 Phoenix long-range air-to-air missiles fire and forget capability, and both AIM-7 and all-aspect AIM-9 missiles excelled prior to the merge. If they were unfortunate enough to not score a kill prior to the merge and a dogfight ensued, or the instructors had them continue on to the merge regardless, more often than not, they found themselves losing. It was noted by F-16 pilots that, short of near-perfect situational awareness on the F-14 crew's part, a lucky mistake by the F-16 pilot, the maneuver advantage of the F-16N was overwhelming. The Hornet was another story. It was very capable in the front quarter fight, and depending on how it was configured, it could be especially potent in a low-speed dogfight. It had no angle of attack limiter like the F-16, so getting very slow with it was not a great place to be in any fighting Falcon. But unless the F-16N's pilot was emulating a particular threat profile that demanded it, they would avoid getting in a slow-speed knife fight with the Hornet and rob its pilot of that advantage. With so much thrust and such a light airframe, playing to the F-16N's strengths wasn't a challenge for adversary pilots. The F-16N's service life was short but impactful. By the mid-1990s, structural integrity issues began to emerge due to the high-stress maneuvers flown during training. Hairline cracks appeared in the airframes, and despite available upgrade programs, budget constraints led to the decision to retire the F-16N fleet by 1998. The Hornet took over the advanced adversary role, but the legacy of the F-16N endured. The end of the Cold War led to significant budget cuts and restructuring within the Pentagon. Despite the F-16N's advantages, the intense training regimens took a toll on the airframes, leading to structural integrity issues. These factors, combined with the high costs of maintaining the fleet, resulted in the decision to retire the F-16N after less than a decade of service. In the post-9/11 era, an embargo against Pakistan led to the redistribution of F-16s, with the Navy receiving 14 Block 15 F-16 As and Bs. These jets, while less powerful than the F-16N, reinvigorated the Navy's adversary training program. Today, they form the core of Top Gun's adversary fleet, continuously challenging students and fleet aviators. To counter evolving aerial threats, especially from China, the Navy is now modernizing its F-16 fleet with older Block 32 and Block 25 F-16C and D models from the Air Force. These jets are being upgraded with advanced radars and other systems to enhance their effectiveness in training. These geopolitical shifts have prompted an initiative to transfer older Block 32 and Block 25 F-16C and D models to the Navy that the Air Force was retiring. All of these jets are based at NAS Fallon and will be replacing the F-5Ns that fly with the VFC-13 Saints Adversary Squadron. The Navy's new, at least to them, Vipers are being modernized to make them extra potent. The 20 Clock 32 F-16Cs will be upgraded to a common configuration of those found in the Air Force. This will include receiving the Northrop Grumman AN/APG-83 active electronically scanned array radar. These new radars offer a massive leap over their mechanically scanned array predecessors with better reliability, greatly enhanced range and resolution, and the ability to peer through enemy jamming. The upgraded jets also feature a large center pedestal display that can better convey what their radar, other sensors, and information from other adversaries sent via data link are seeing. More upgrades will likely follow. Ultimately, the F-16N revolutionized the stagnating adversary fleet during the twilight of the Cold War. While its career was remarkably short, its glowing legacy can be seen in the fleet of Navy Vipers sitting on the ramp at Fallon today that is larger than the entire F-16N fleet ever was. 3.5 decades since the first F-16N's introduction into service, the future for the Navy adversary Viper has never been brighter. The F-16N revolutionized adversary training during its brief service, leaving a lasting impact on naval aviation. Its legacy lives on in the Navy's current F-16 fleet, which continues to play a critical role in preparing pilots for modern aerial combat. As we look to the future, the Navy's adversary Vipers are more capable than ever, ensuring that the lessons learned from the F-16N continue to shape naval aviation training. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating stories from the world of military aviation. Until next time.